All right. Good morning, you guys. So today we're talking about geometric sequences. And actually, this is not so bad. So what we need to know about geometric sequences is that they progress by multiplication. That is really important. So let's look at a series of numbers: 5, 15, 45, 135. You need to ask yourself, is this a geometric sequence? Is this a geometric sequence? Well, let's see. When you went from here to here, did you multiply by anything? Yes, you did. You multiplied by 3, correct? And when you went from here to here, you multiplied by 3. And when you went from here to here, you multiplied by 3. And so, yes, it is a geometric sequence because each term is progressing by multiplication. And the common term is 3. So in other words, we're going to say our common ratio is 3. So you can say your R is going to be 3. Okay, that's really important. So let's look at this next series of numbers. 3, -3/2, then 3/4, and then -3/8. Is this a geometric sequence? Well, the way that you determine if something is a geometric sequence, remember, is you have to see if you're using multiplication to go from the first term to the second term, from the second term to the third term, and so on. So what would you have to multiply by here to get to -3/2? 3 times what equals -3/2? Well, if you take 3 times -1/2, okay, so remember we multiply across, you get -3/2, right? And if you went from -3/2 and you multiplied that by -1/2, so if you said -3/2 times -1/2, we're going to multiply across, we get +3/4. And that's exactly what we're supposed to do here. And if we kept going, if we continue to multiply this by -1/2, we would get -3/8. So of course, yes, this is a geometric sequence and our common ratio is -1/2. So now let's just say that we had this sequence here and then they said, well, you need to find the 10th term in the sequence. So this is the first term, second term, third term, fourth term. Then you had to keep going to find your 10th term in the sequence. Well, you could do it the long way and you could say, well, okay, let's just keep taking each of these numbers. So -3/2 times -1/2, and we'll find the 5th term, and then you keep going. But that would be really hard if you had to say, well, what would be the 100th term in this sequence? That's too much work. So there is a formula that you can use. And this is what I want you guys to write. The formula would be a to the n equals a1 times r n minus 1. So just write this formula down. This is what you're going to remember. Let me explain the formula. All right, so whatever you're looking for. So in this case, it says to find the 10th term in the sequence. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, okay, well, A, and we're looking for our 10th term. So that's going to be where you're going to put your number that you're looking for. And then your A1 is always going to be your first term in your sequence. So in this case, 3 is our first term in our sequence, right? And then our R is going to always be your common ratio. And we found that our ratio was -1/2. So we're going to fill that in right here, -1/2. And then we're going to say N, which was our 10, minus 1. Well, we can simplify that. So we can say, well, 3, and then we have -1/2, and then this is 10 minus 1 is 9. So we're going to have to solve this. So remember, in our order of operations, which we've been working on, we have to do our exponent first. So we have to take -1/2 to the 9th power first. So let's do that. So if we said, well, -1 to the 9th power, remember this is an odd number, so our answer, the numerator is still going to be -1. And then let's say a 2 to the 9th power. So you can do your calculator here. You could say, okay, well, I want to do 2 to the 9th power, okay? And so that would be 512. So this would be, so if we were to do this exponent first, we would get negative 1 over 512. And then if we were to multiply this by 3, our answer is going to be negative 3 over 512. That is going to be our answer. So that's a really, really, really hard, that would be the 10th term in this sequence. So I guess you wouldn't want to have to figure that out, but if you have a formula to just press up, you know, put it into, then it's a lot easier to find. So there's your answer for the 10th term. So I'm going to stop right there, and then I'm going to come back on and kind of go further into this.